my name is H.A.Pruitt and I am the author of Adverbial. And in this video I'm going to be talking about grammar, specifically commas in this video. So I love grammar and all things to do with punctuating things and making things correct in writing. I've always enjoyed it throughout high school and while writing Adverbial and working with the editor with Elm Hill, and then working on my second book on my own and getting my copy editor's handbook. I have just learned a lot about commas and quite a bit about grammar, and so I want to share with you what I have learned and how to make sentences correct with commas, because commas can be so difficult. And so whether you are just in high school trying to make it through English class, or whether you are a writer trying to make your work look professional and grammatically correct, I want to help you with commas. And to make it more enjoyable, because most people hate grammar and commas, I want to do it while showing you pictures of guinea pigs and my examples. While the sentences may not be the most epic, beautifully written sentences, they're going to be about guinea pigs and it's going to be fun. So throughout the video, if you just think of any questions you have, please drop them in the comments. If you have a sentence that you're working on and you're writing right now and you are like, I just do not know what to do with this sentence, how to punctuate it, what's going on with it, drop it in the comments below and ask me about it, and I will help you out with your sentences, with your writing. Again, whether you're in high school, whether you're trying to be a professional writer, whatever, I want to help you with grammar and commas. So this video is going to be about commas specifically, and I hope you enjoy listening to me and watching my guinea pigs teach you about commas. When joining two independent clauses, place a comma before the conjunction. For example, Pudge ate hay and Milo drank water. An independent clause can stand on its own. If it's a subject and a verb, it can be a complete sentence, like Pudge ate. That is a complete sentence. It has a subject and a verb. And so you can test if you need a comma by asking, will I have two complete sentences if I remove the conjunction and put a period between them? So in the example we used, Pudge ate hay and Milo drank water, think, would this be correct? Would this be two correct sentences? Pudge ate hay, period. Milo drank water, period. And that would be two correct sentences. They each have a subject and a verb, so they each are a complete sentence and can stand alone. So when joining them, use a conjunction and a comma before the conjunction. Joining two independent clauses can seem pretty easy, but it is easy to get confused when you have a more complex sentence. So, for example, it's tempting to place a comma before every conjunction, but you don't need to have a comma before every conjunction. So, for example, here's our sentence. Pudge ate hay and drank water, and Milo ate grass. So you may be tempted to place a comma after hay and before and, because it's a conjunction, right? So your sentence would say, Pudge ate hay, comma, and drank water, comma, and Milo ate grass. But that's not correct, because you have Pudge doing two different actions. So if you place a comma after hay, then by that, using that punctuation, you're saying Pudge didn't do that second action. That action is just kind of off on its own, not having any subject. And that makes it incorrect. And so you don't need a comma between the actions that one subject does. It's easy to do, especially when you have a lot of clauses and phrases. But make sure if you have one subject, you don't place a comma between the two actions that it does, unless, of course, you have an interrupter, which we'll talk about later. To determine where you need a comma, remember to do the test that we talked about a second ago. Think, if I split up what is split up by commas and made it each its own sentence, would it make sense? So if you split up what we have, Pudge ate hay, period, drank water, period. That wouldn't make any sense. And so you can see that you do need a comma and you do not need a comma between that conjunction, because Pudge is doing both of those actions. She is the subject of each of those verbs. And Milo ate grass. That's a whole different thing. So you can have Pudge ate hay and drank water, period. Milo ate grass, period. So you see, that's where you need your comma. After water. You can also think about commas like this with independent clauses. Commas help readers understand who did what action. So this example, without a comma, could very easily be confusing. So here's your example. Pudge ate hay, and kibble fell from the sky. So you see, if you didn't have a comma, readers could easily be reading along and read, Pudge ate hay and kibble fell from the sky. And it sounds really weird. And so while some of our sentences, you could obviously tell who was doing what action, with that sentence, it would be really difficult to tell what was going on, or if the sentence had a mistake, or what was happening. So that's the reason for commas, to help readers understand what is actually going on. Sometimes they might not seem like they're really necessary to you, but to clarify to all readers, that's where they come in handy. So here is what makes commas difficult. Commas can break their own rules if certain circumstances apply. So the independent clause rule, joining two independent clauses with a conjunction and a comma, that can be broken if you have two independent clauses that are very short and very clear who is doing what action. And so, for example, this sentence, even though it is two independent clauses being joined by a conjunction, it does not need a comma because it is so short and simple. So the example is, Pudge ate and Milo napped. If you have something that is that short and that simple and that clear, you don't necessarily need a comma. You can put one in, but you don't need one. So now we are going to discuss how to punctuate with commas dependent clauses. Independent clauses can stand alone, dependent clauses cannot. So let's get to our examples to explain. So a dependent clause can go before the independent clause, in the middle of an independent clause, or after an independent clause. And so listen carefully. If a dependent clause is before an independent clause, you need a comma. Because guinea pigs like hay, comma, they eat all day. They eat all day can stand alone, so it's independent. But because guinea pigs like hay is dependent, because of that word because there, you need something else with it. It can't stand alone. So you do need the comma with the dependent clause when it comes before an independent clause. So the next example of the dependent clause is when it interrupts the independent clause. And like we talked about a little bit ago, when you have a clause or a phrase interrupting an independent clause, it needs to be set off with commas. So guinea pigs, comma, because they like hay, comma, eat all day. The dependent clause interrupting the independent clause is set off with commas. And the last way to attach a dependent clause to an independent clause is to put it completely after the independent clause. And so you may or may not need a comma. This is another tricky comma rule. So if the dependent clause is necessary, if it is restrictive, and restrictive means it describes and defines the independent clause, then you do not need a comma. If it is non-restrictive or isn't necessary to describe the independent clause, if it was taken off, it wouldn't change anything with the independent clause, then you do need a comma. So if you have questions about that, please ask in the comments. But here is the example. Guinea pigs eat all day because they like hay, period. That doesn't need a comma because since because they like hay defines why they eat all day. If that dependent clause after guinea pigs eat all day didn't define why they ate all day, it would need a comma to separate the two. Again, if you have any questions about any of these rules, please ask them below in the comments, and I can give you more examples. So here are some other miscellaneous comma rules. First, if-then sentences need commas even if you don't include then. So the example sentence is, if Pudge bites Milo, she will be in trouble. The then is implied, but you still need a comma after Milo. If Pudge bites Milo, then she will be in trouble. Sentence adverbs need a comma after them. Sentence adverbs are adverbs that modify the whole sentence. They are usually words like finally, ultimately, or suddenly. An example is, finally, all 14 guinea pigs finished their carrots. Finally modifies the entire sentence, so it's a sentence adverb that needs a comma after it. Phrases with participles need to be separated by a comma. A participle is a verb that acts as an adjective, and so it modifies a noun. So, for example, eating hay, Bear glanced around. In that example, eating modifies how Bear was glancing around. And so since eating is modifying Bear, it's a participle. So we put a comma after eating hay. Multiple adjectives need a comma between them. This sounds easy, but it can become pretty tricky. So we're talking about multiple adjectives that describe a noun. Usually the words will be two adjectives that come before the noun. Not always, but that's typically how this works. So if the two adjectives describe the noun independently, use a comma. So the example sentence for this would be, Pudge is a fat, cute guinea pig. A comma goes between those two adjectives because they each independently modify guinea pig. You could take one or the other out and it would still be a correct sentence, and it would still mean the same thing. You can check if you need a comma by thinking, could I put an and between these two adjectives? So let's read our sentence. Pudge is a fat and cute guinea pig. Yes, you could put an and there, and so you do need a comma there. You can also check this by seeing, could you interchange the words? So let's read it with the words reversed. Pudge is a cute, fat guinea pig. Yes, you can interchange the words. And so those words independently modify guinea pig. You don't need one or the other to keep the meaning the same in the sentence. And so you do need a comma between those two words. However, you do not need a comma between two adjectives when one adjective describes the other adjective in noun. So the example makes this easier to understand. The example is, Pudge is a white Abyssinian guinea pig. White describes what kind of Abyssinian guinea pig Pudge is. If you switch the two around, Pudge is a Abyssinian white guinea pig, it sounds kind of awkward, and it kind of changes the meaning. It takes away the Abyssinian being the main focus and puts white as the focus. And we're describing the white being Abyssinian. It just changes things up. And so that's how you test if you need a comma or not between two adjectives. If you change the order, or if you put and between them, does it start to sound awkward? And also, does it change the meaning? If it changes the meaning, or if it just sounds wrong and not what you meant to write, then it does not need a comma. Also, an introductory adverbial phrase may or may not need a comma after it. An introductory adverbial phrase is a phrase that comes at the beginning of a sentence that tells when, where, how, or to what degree the action in the rest of the sentence is done. So, you do not need a comma if the introductory adverbial phrase is 3 words or less. The example for this is, in one day, Kiki can eat a bucket of hay. In one day is the introductory adverbial phrase. It tells when Kiki can eat a bucket of hay. So you don't need a comma for this introductory adverbial phrase since it's only 3 words, but if you want to set the pacing for your reader, you can put it there. So it would read, in one day, Kiki can eat a bucket of hay. A comma signals a pause in a sentence, a pause in an idea, or a pause in a thought. Like I said, you don't need to put a comma here, but if you would like the reader to pause before they go on to the rest of the sentence after a 3-word adverbial phrase, go ahead and put the comma there. Also, if you're in school and you're watching this for writing, ask your teacher if they want you to go ahead and put it there. So, if the phrase is 4 words or more, do put a comma there every time. So our example sentence is, by the end of the day, Pudge's tummy is full. By the end of the day does need a comma after it. It's the introductory adverbial phrase that describes when Pudge's tummy is full. And since it's as long as it is, you definitely need a comma to come after it. Another comma rule revolves around the Oxford comma. So everyone has an opinion about the Oxford comma once they learn about the Oxford comma. If you're in a writing class, ask your teacher what they prefer and go with that. If you are a writer, then you need to decide if you want to use it or not and be consistent. So what is the Oxford comma? The Oxford comma is the last comma whenever you're doing a list. You know, whenever you're in school, you learn when you list things like red, blue, and green, you need a comma after each item in your list. Well, that's the Oxford comma, but some people don't like to use the Oxford comma, and so they would put red, comma, blue, and green. No comma right before the last item in the list. Neither one is correct, neither one is wrong. They both work, but like I said, be consistent with your Oxford commas. Me personally, I like to use the Oxford comma. I like the last comma in there because sometimes it can cause confusion. So here's an example sentence where it could cause confusion. The guinea pigs, Dog, and Sylvan are our pets. If you just put the comma after the guinea pigs, you could lead your reader to believe that the guinea pigs' names are Dog and Sylvan. However, the guinea pigs are our pets, and we also have 2 cats named Dog and Sylvan. And so without the comma in between Dog and Sylvan, it kind of looks like you're doing an interrupter and telling the names of the guinea pigs. But that's just not true. So think about that, and then decide, do you want to use the Oxford comma or not? And be consistent with it, whichever way you choose. The last comma rule I will share with you is about however and though. So you always need a comma before and after though. Here's an example. Mocha was sure about the ramp. Frodo, though, wasn't sure about the ramp. You need a comma before and after though because it's an interrupter, like we talked about earlier. So however is similar. If you use it in the place of though, just like this sentence would read, Frodo, however, wasn't sure about the ramp, you would use commas. However, whenever you use however, just like I did, after ending a sentence and beginning a new thought, a contradictory thought, then use a semicolon before and a comma after. So it's kind of the same, but it's different because if you use however at the beginning of a sentence, the 2 sentences are connected, and so you kind of want a soft stop. You want a soft stop, and that's what a semicolon means, to have a soft stop. Not a complete stop, not a brief stop like a comma, somewhere in between. The 2 thoughts are connected, and yet they're different enough they can be 2 sentences, and that's when you put a semicolon instead of a comma in front of however. So that is what I have to teach you about using commas. I, of course, did not cover every comma rule ever, and so if you have any additional questions about commas, please put them in the comments below. Please comment, like I said, comment any questions you have. If you have a sentence you're not sure about, please ask me about it. I don't know everything, but I do know quite a bit. I've learned a lot writing my 2 books so far and working with an editor on the first book. So please ask me questions about commas. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a like And please subscribe to my YouTube channel because next week I'm going to talk more about grammar, so you'll learn some more. And I have other videos teaching about all kinds of writing subjects. I have some guinea pig videos too, and I have videos talking about anathallion. So please subscribe to my YouTube channel, watch some other videos, get an idea of who I am, and just thank you very, very much for watching. If you want to know more about anathallion or H.A.Pruitt, please follow me on Instagram at H.A.Pruitt. You can find me on Amazon as an Amazon author, H.A.Pruitt. Please watch my YouTube channel and all my cool videos on my channel, H.A.Pruitt Anathallion. You can find me on the Facebook page, H.A.Pruitt Anathallion. You can follow me on Goodreads by the name H.A.Pruitt and the book Anathallion, or you can go to my website where so much cool stuff about anathallion is. The website is hapruitt.com. Such a loud car. Commas. I did not cover that loud car. I didn't cover the loud cars. Start again. Okay.